Heidi ho, Z-Pack. It's your boy Z-Dog MD. I'm live and direct out of Studio Z. There's no Tom and Logan because it's the weekend and they get the day off. But being a doctor, ain't no day off for Z-Dog MD, okay? Ain't no strip clubs and buffets and gambling for the dog because I had to drop Z-Pup off at the Smith Center, which is our local performing arts thing because she's doing a violin thing that the parents aren't allowed to go to unless they buy like a $100 ticket to the actual show. And I'm like, oh, hell no. I'm dropping her off. I'm coming here doing my show, and then I'm going to pick her up because that's how we do it. Anyways, I'm going to pull up your comments. I want to talk today about 1984, how it's arrived several decades late, because apparently, and again, I don't want to feed into the usual like media hysteria. Whenever Trump does anything, everyone jumps up and down and it acts like it's the end of the world. It's usually not the end of the world, although one day it might be if he pushes some kind of button. But I'm generally like, look, America's going to do fine no matter what happens. Until today, I'm just like a little bit nervous that we're telling our scientific agencies, the nation's leading public health agency, the Centers for Disease Control, CDC, apparently, according to the Washington Post, they got a list of forbidden words that they cannot use in their budget proposal documents. Now, the question is, it says in any official documents being prepared for next year's budget. Now, does that mean they can't use these words in general? I don't know the answer to that. So that's a different thing. But it seems like the administration doesn't want to hear the words diversity, entitlement, transgender, fetus. Okay, mind you, this is a scientific organization. Evidence-based, mind you, this is a scientific organization. Or science-based, mind you, this is a scientific organization. So apparently they get butthurt by those words because they make our anti-vaxxer-in-chief rather nervous. Or they have a tinge of liberal ideology, for example, diversity, entitlement, transgender, through the prism of a particular ideology might trigger people or cause a degree of butthurt. However, we are talking, that's all fine and dandy. We're talking about a scientific organization here. So they're being told what to write, and in a way, because words actually influence thinking, they're being told what to think and what to say. That's my opinion in this, and that is unacceptable. No government should tell a scientific organization based on ideology what to do, and that includes a democratic administration. You have to let science do what it does, which is empirical observation followed by recommendations based on evidence. Evidence-based, which is one of the banned words, that are based on science, which is empirical, testable, refutable observations that lead to conclusions that are constantly revised based on new data, or science-based. Also one of the banned hyphenated words that the CDC is not allowed to use. So when Gardner Murphy says, as a physician, I don't think it represents an entitlement to provide science-based, evidence-based care for vulnerable populations, including pregnant women and their fetuses, transgender individuals, and others representing the diversity within our country. So I think you pretty much nailed it. I don't think this is a Republican or a Democratic or a libertarian issue. I think this is an issue of stifling scientific discourse. These words are actually kind of necessary unless you substitute another equivalent word, right? So what the CDC was told, apparently, is that instead of science-based or evidence-based, the suggested phrase is the CDC bases its recommendations on science in consideration with community standards and wishes. So let's say the community of Marin, for example, part of Marin that is particularly affluent and highly anti-vaccine. And again, I don't mean to pick on Marin, but I'm picking on Marin because they're rich and it's punching up, comedically speaking. They don't want to vaccinate. So the CDC would say, well, we base our recommendations on science, but also the community standards and wishes. And in this community, it's the standard to think you're smarter than science and not vaccinate your children. So we're going to go ahead and allow that, okay? Do you see here where this is crazy as fucking shit? This is insane. So normally, again, when stuff gets political, I try to stay moderate or transpartisan if I can, and I think I'm doing so by saying, this is insane. You don't tell a scientific organization what words to use, period. Now, this has already happened at the EPA and all of that, and they've scrubbed away climate change and all that. I'm not a climate scientist, so I can't talk about that. What I can talk about is medical science, or the CDC. Turns out fetus is an anatomical medical description of a fetus. Why can't you use that word? Now, here's the best part, Z-Pack. While stifling the CDC, which is our last best defense as a whole group, as a nation against pestilence, right? I have friends at the CDC. These are smart, dedicated, selfless people who are trying to do their best for the health of as many people as possible. They are patriots and they are heroes. They get stifled with the words they can use and can't use, but yet pharma, who everyone says, oh, they're in the pocket of CDC, or CDC's in the pocket of pharma, pharma gets to continue doing direct-to-consumer ads. Right? Pharma gets to put an ad on the Super Bowl for an opioid constipation drug. They get to do that, but the CDC can't say fetus, diversity, evidence-based, or science-based. Tell me what kind of effed up world we live in. Okay, what is happening to science in this country? And again, I'm focusing on the science because I don't care about all the other political stuff. I'm interested in what's happening to science. If this is what's going to happen at the CDC, it's going to happen at the FDA, it's going to happen at the USDA, it's going to happen at Health and Human Services and CMS, and we are all effed. So that's the typical panicked, hyperbolic response to a media piece that's probably skewed to begin with. But I think it's fair as scientists. Now, again, why am I even talking about this? Because I have gotten hundreds of messages from you guys, EPAC. More than almost any other article has provoked, saying, can you please talk about this outrage? Now, why would the Z-Pack in particular? Our audience on Facebook is about 50-50 conservative and liberal. And why would they all agree that this is a dumb, stupid idea? Because we're scientists, because we're medical people, because we're activist patients who care about the truth in science, right? Almost to a fault. Well, of course, we're pretty pissed off about this. Let's read some comments here from my homies in the Z-Pack. Resist, says Catherine Dobkins. How about we just kind of make our displeasure known and say, you know what, look, there's a thing called science. It uses words. Words matter. Let's use the words that matter, okay? And keep the politics out of it. And that includes both sides of the aisle, okay? Because you could, look, you guys know me. I hate political correctness with a passion. I hate it with a passion. I think it's destroyed our civil discourse. It's made us all have a very low butthurt trigger, and we're not able to even talk without freaking out. I think that's terrible, right? But this is a kind of different political correctness. It's saying, okay, the ideology of this particular belief system says you can't use these words in science, but it's science. It is objective as any of our human disciplines can be, given that they're human disciplines and often aren't objective. Jackie Jenkins says, because people's feelings mean more than facts, this world is going to hell. I'm tending to agree with you. Words matter like bigly, Jackie Baxter. No more evidence-based, says Mike Cardamone. Okay, everything based on anecdotal evidence seems legit. Oy vey. Worse. Based on science, but with community standards and wishes factored in. So, for example, you could have lead in the water in Flint, but if it's the community standard that, like, we like a little lead in our water and we like our children to be poisoned slowly but surely, then we should go ahead and do that, even though the science says that it's any amount of lead is a toxin to children. This is why this is absolutely insane. And yet, the same anti-scientific approach says we now have lost net neutrality, where my show can be stifled by AT&T or Cox, who I have publicly badmouthed on this show for being the worst provider next to CenturyLink, next to Comcast, and also next to AT&T. So basically they all suck equally. But you don't think that they're going to one day listen to me say that and go, you know what? I'm going to stifle ZDoggMD.com. He's going to get no traffic through without paying something. They can do that now. The internet is no longer a level playing field. And it happened with 83% of Americans, both Republicans and Democrats, opposing this move. They went ahead and did it anyways. Do you know who it benefits? The only people that this destruction of net neutrality benefits? The cable and internet providers. Nobody else. That's it. Period. And they'll tell you, oh no, it's going to allow for a drop in prices for cable connections and more and faster, gigabit speeds and all that. I'm like, no, it's not. What it's going to do is it's going to allow them to choke off and partner with people that they want to promote and stop people that they don't. It is again a kind of censorship, which if you are, a moderate libertarian like myself, you just want to punch somebody when you see that stuff happen, because I don't want anyone telling me what to do unless it's vaccinate, unless it's certain things that actually are good for the community. And if you aren't part of it, then you're actually damaging the whole community, right? Like you can't run into a theater yelling fire, although apparently now you can. Let's see. Is the CDC legally bound to follow this ban, Jen German? I don't know the answer to that. I'm going to talk to my friends at CDC and see. Rachel Casper, reason number 908, about a billion numbers, why I like animals better than humans. Well, that may pretty much be it. So in summary with this, what I want you to do is share my little rant, because it's important that our politicians, that the people who we're electing into office, understand when people of rational discourse who take care of other people, i.e. the Z-PAC, i.e. healthcare providers, feel upset about something. And you can be a Republican, you can be a Democrat, you can be an anarchist, you can be Amish, I don't care what you are. You can feel that it's wrong to stifle scientific discourse. And I think that's what's happening here. And since we understand this particular form of science, because it's healthcare, we can comment on it. Like I can't really comment on climate science because I haven't done the supercomputer modeling to show that it's inevitably due to human activity or it's some other cycle. Look, I trust the scientists who have studied it all their lives. For healthcare, I am one of the scientists who studied it all my life. And I'm telling you, this is wrong. What they're doing is wrong. Okay, on that note, hit, share, hit like. A young nurse in South Carolina lost her life at work. I posted about that earlier. Our condolences go out to her family. There was some confusion about what had happened. She was running to a code, but actually died of natural causes, apparently, while getting to the code, so it wasn't necessarily a fall or an accident or negligence on the part of the facility that we know of. I've heard from a lot of people who know her personally, and they're devastated by her loss, so we want to give our deepest condolences from the Z-PAC to her work family and her family. We've lost one of our own. Other things on the agenda, we're going to talk about that doc who tattooed his initials on the liver. A lot of people have sent me the story about the nurse at Cedars-Sinai who was apparently attacked by a doctor. I'm not comfortable talking about that story because I don't think there's been enough information out. And without knowing all the information, like I saw the video clip of it and it was really unclear what was going on. So until I learn more, until someone knows exactly what's going on and can let me know, I don't want to talk about that necessarily publicly or come out one way or another as to what the story is there. It's an interesting case. And again, it speaks to the whole silent no more idea that not only can we be hurt by patients, we can be hurt by one another in theory, and so that's another piece that's coming soon. What else can I say? I got to go pick up, what time is it? 6:48. I got to go Pacific time. I got to go drive back to the Smith Center in Vegas and go get my daughter. She's done her violin thing for a little private audience. Now I got to go grab her, come home, get her some dinner. So I will see you guys tomorrow. And I don't know, Z-PAC, I love y'all. I hope you love us back. If you do, hit share. Thank you for buying so much merchandise. I know, some people have complained that, a shirt for $39 or this or that, but the idea is that you get a cool shirt and we get actually not that much profit because the companies we use to make the stuff are expensive because they do all the fulfillment, they make the shirts and all that. But whatever we get from that, we're putting in a fund specifically to make videos. So we don't have to go hustling for sponsors to sponsor a video, which means the video gets neutered. We don't get to say what we want to say in the video because we might offend the sponsor. We don't want that. We want to just, actually take this pocket of money, take Tom and Logan's skill and expertise, and Ethan and Chanson and the guys who work on our films together, and make dope videos that are totally, commercially unfettered. So when you buy the merchandise at shop.zdogmd.com in time for Christmas, you could do that. There's lots of edgy stuff that we put on there. You help us do that. All right, guys, I love you, and we out. Peace.